All right, guys. So it's very hard to talk about geological time without talking about fossils themselves. Fossils are probably our greatest clue to understanding a lot of the past, mainly because of the radiometric dating we're able to do on organic animal material. So it gives us a great deal of understanding of how old or how long something's been. Now, this isn't a 100% rule when it comes to dating what's going on in the Earth, but it sure does help us a lot. Now, fossils. Fossils are the remains or traces of prehistoric life. So life that is in the very much past, prehistory normally, is where we find these. Types of fossils that we do find are usually organisms that are relatively recent, within a few million years. And the only thing that gets really fossilized is their teeth and their bones for the most part. Sometimes we will find the entire animals. It's rare, and even more rare, the flesh is the flesh being included. So this is even more so. But the biggest thing we always find is teeth and bones. Usually the hard calcified piece of an animal that we'll find, shells, etc. Um, Given enough time, the remains finally do petrify once they've begun the fossilization process. And petrified literally means turned into stone. If you've ever seen petrified wood, this is just wood. You can tell that it's been wood or it was a tree at one point, and it is absolutely a rock. So it's turned to stone. This is what petrified is. Some of the types of fossils that we see are they can be molds and casts. Molds would typically be what we call a positive fossil, and casts are negative fossils. I'll show you a picture of that later. Carbonization. Carbonization where we see like coal, mass forests that were stratified and over the top of them, and they end up becoming fossilized, and that really does just become coal at some point. So that's carbonization. Some of the other things we find are tracks. Obviously, that's not bone, but there's definitely history of where that's at. The burrows where they may have lived, where they dug, whatever the case may be. Coprolites, which is fossilized dung. That's basically poop that's been fossilized. It gets left behind, covered, and fossilizes. And gastrolites. Gastrolites are really polished round stones. What it is some dinosaurs would take those, they'd swallow stones to help them digest what they're eating, mostly plant eaters. So that's where we will find those as well. Conditions favoring preservation. We need rapid burial. A great example of that is if you go to Vernal, Utah, there's a huge quarry of dinosaurs there, mostly of brontosauruses. And what happens, it looks like what happened is there's maybe a great flood that happened, and these dinosaurs got caught up in a river as they were migrating, got swept down river, and then buried rather quickly from the sediment of the river. So you end up with this huge quarry of dinosaurs. It's phenomenally large. And then we have most of the possession of hard parts. So that's what does get fossilized. Here we go. Here's an example of a trilobite fossil. They are extinct now, but of course this is a double-sided cast and mold, and this is the positive side that I told you about, and the negative. You see it's the same fossil, but we end up with opposite sides of it being the positive and negative of it, so the hollow versus the non-hollow kind. All right, correlation of rock layers. Now, what happens with this is we can find certain dinosaurs or certain fossils of all the kinds, say trilobites, for example, of a certain species, and they're always in the same layer of rock. That helps us really correlate the type of rock correlation in the layers and how they work together. This was first put together by a guy by the name of William Smith back in the 1700s, and he noted that sedimentary rock in widely spread areas usually have the same kind of types of dinosaurs or fossils in them. And so when he would see that, he was able to correlate that age of that dinosaur type being there, or that type of rock. The correlation of rock layers, this is the principle of fossil succession. And what it really comes down to is that if we find the same kind of dinosaurs, fossils, or whatever the fossil is, in, say, Africa, and then we go to another part of the continent, and we find that same fossil, we know that that period of time was identified as the same type of rock because we see the same kind of dinosaurs that lived or whatever the fossil was lived during that period of time. And this helps us develop an index of fossils. These are usually widespread geographically, so it covers a large area, and there's a limited short span of geological time. So what it is they're very widely spread, and they are the very small amount of time that they did live, maybe a few million years. All right, here's a fossil index. You see how that works, where we can correlate the time periods according to how long they live. There's our trilobite friend, went extinct even before T-Rex, and T-Rex shows up. Plants are good for this. Orthopods give us a good idea. There's our starfish, fossils. They've been with us for a long time, as you can see, and so forth. But plants are really good for helping us develop that index. All right, so this is our little unit on fossils. I got some labs and things I want you to do with this, but make sure that you've taken your notes on these and you include your summary. The summary is important to show me that you've watched these notes and I understand what you have learned. All right, see you later.